welcome to a very special episode of Undercurrent where we revisit some of our best stories from season 16. I'm your host, Lucy Marchant. Protesting the right to protest. It seems ironic, doesn't it? But that's exactly what has happened after our government proposed to make protesting illegal. Those seen participating in a protest could face up to 2 years in jail and some pretty hefty fines. James Rogers with the report.
Last month, there were protesters outside Parliament House fighting for the right to protest. It was in regards to the Criminal Code Amendment Bill, which seeks to make the physical prevention of lawful activity an offence. I spoke with lawyer Kate Davis to find out more.
The Law Society of Western Australia and the Criminal Lawyers Association and Community Legal Centres Association of Western Australia have all spoken out against these laws, and their concerns are primarily that they are drafted so broadly that they're open for misuse, and also that they reverse the onus of proof in relation to the crucial element of intent for these new offences. And so those are the key reasons that the legal profession have raised their concerns about this new bill.
How will these laws affect just generally the people of WA protesting anything?
So these laws create two new offences. One is the prevention of lawful activity, and then the second, which to my mind is the most serious and concerning offence, is the one of possession of a thing for the purpose of preventing lawful activity or for the purpose of trespass. Now, the risk is that people may be charged before they've undertaken any protest activity at all simply for the possession of a thing. And because the onus of proof is reversed, the police just need to prove that they had a reasonable suspicion the person was going to use that thing for protest, and they no longer need to prove the offence beyond a reasonable doubt.
Why do you think these laws are being introduced? It all sounds a bit Orwellian, doesn't it?
Certainly, a lot of people have been quite creative and humorous in their critique of the proposals around the possession of a thing. We had lots of excellent examples of things turning up at the protest recently just to highlight how ridiculous these laws are. I think the government have made it really clear in their own statements in Parliament that they're bringing these laws in to advance the interests of big corporations like the oil and gas giants who were trying to press ahead with the James Price Point development and in order to stop protests in old-growth forests in the southwest.
As you said, the proposed legislation is seemingly vague in that it criminalises possessing a thing, which appears to be could be anything. Do you think this is going to be targeted only for radical protesters, as the government claims, or do you think it's going to be conveniently used?
Certainly the government have consistently claimed that this legislation is for activists who are using lock-ons and who are engaging in dangerous activities, but there's nothing in the legislation that targets the offences in that way. So it's open for these offences to be used against anybody engaging in protest, preventing lawful activity, or just possessing a thing in circumstances where the police have the suspicion about them. And so our concern, which is reflected by the really broad group of people and organisations who've joined the Alliance, is that it could be used against workers engaging in otherwise lawful industrial activity, like a picket out the front of a workplace that prevents people from getting into a business would be covered by this legislation. That it might be used against church leaders in their upcoming campaigns around sanctuary. While the government is saying that it's targeted at extremist activists, there was no suggestion that there was ever any violence at James Price Point or at the protests in the forests. So these laws are clearly targeted, intentionally targeted at peaceful protest.
What do you suggest can be done to either stop this legislation or change it?
I think it's really important that the government understands the level of dissatisfaction in the community about these anti-democratic laws, and so people contacting their members of parliament is really important. Continuing to put pressure on the government to show this is not the kind of laws that we want in Western Australia is really important. It's also an interesting development to see that Bob Brown has filed in the High Court a challenge to the Tasmanian anti-protest laws. It'll be very interesting to see what the High Court has to say about these. and hopefully that will send a clear message to the Barnett government as well.
Do you have any more comments on this issue that you would like to share?
It's been fantastic to see such a broad range of representatives of the community come together and work so well together. So we've had representatives from a range of different unions led by Unions WA. We've got representatives from a number of different churches, the Anglican and Catholic churches. We have representatives from environmental organisations like Conservation Council and No Shark Cull, as well as the West Australian Council of Social Service. So it's a really broad spectrum of organisations across the community who are concerned about this legislation.
Only time will tell if this bill passes successfully. This is James Rogers reporting for Undercurrent.
On March 11, politicians and industry leaders got together to talk about the future of innovation, to open up conversation and turn talk into action. Could Australia be the next leader in innovation? Nadia Hunter investigates.
How do you think today's summit went?
Oh, it's great. It's great to see a lot of people coming here today. There's been people who were here last time we did it on just innovation. This time the theme was manufacturing and innovation. Same sort of people coming along, but new faces as well, which is fantastic.
And how important is it to have events like this?
Well, it's important to get people out there really talking about these issues, but also to get the politicians here, to get people from industry here, and get everyone talking together. So it was an interesting mix. I recognised a few people that I've seen before. Some people in tech industry, some in manufacturing industry, some retired people, some government people, some private sector people. So getting them all talking together. But of course, it's important to then translate those words into action and to see that things actually happen.
Today, 75% of the jobs of the future will be STEM jobs. In Singapore, now over nearly 50% of their graduates are STEM graduates out of university. 46% and rising out of China are STEM graduates. Here in Australia, what do you think the figure is? Up there? Yep. 16% and falling. And if we're going to innovate and change our economy, it means we've all got to work together. So we've got Innovate Australia who've been a real catalyst for this. We've got politicians of both sides of Parliament. We have got public servants and we've got the men and women who've got the great ideas to move forward. So that's the wonderful thing about this is Innovate Australia have brought all of these people together to find new ways of working together.
One of the things I've found with innovation, the informal connections are fundamentally important. Formal connections are good, but these sorts of events where humans come with other humans and get together, share ideas, that's the real powerhouse of what innovation should be about.
Look, we have sort of two simple goals, okay? Number one goal is actually to convert Western Australia into a state of innovation, okay? So we've been promoting this idea for quite some time, and actually to the point we're hoping you're going to get license plates on your car soon that actually going to say WA State of Innovation. We haven't changed for 16 years anyway, so we get just says Western Australia, so why not? The second goal actually is we promoting with federal government, so Linda knows about it, we actually promoting the idea of Australia becoming #1 country in innovation in 15 years.
And where do you see manufacturing in the next 15 years?
If you listen to people from over east, you'd think that manufacturing was dead in Australia, but it's far from that here in Western Australia. I don't know if you knew or any of your viewers know that West Australia has had 5% increase in manufacturing for the last 15 years, when the rest of the country it's only been less than 0.5%. So we export over $20 billion worth of manufacturing from Western Australia, including all the work we do for the oil and gas and mining industries. So the future is very bright, but with the transition in the mining industry and the oil and gas industry, we need to find new markets for our manufacturers, and that means we've got to innovate.
Well, I'd like to see research and development join with manufacturing because it is so dynamic, such a vibrant part of our community and so fundamentally important to creating a complex economy. We're often accused of being one-dimensional with iron ore, for example, or oil and gas, our resources sector, which is unfair because of the amount of technology that is involved in those industries, but we need a little bit more. We need a more complex economy that is not single commodity focused, but actually exportable by knowledge as much as goods.
And if the government were to invest in manufacturing and innovation, where would that money best be placed?
Chamber's perspective, and we've done a survey of business expectations on this, we have found that We don't believe that direct grants to businesses is the appropriate response. We find that it doesn't drive the level of innovation and effectiveness that we need to come out of the industry. What we have found is that the research and development taxation subsidy has provided a lot of direct benefits to the community, and we get great bang for our buck. So if we look at multipliers from the ABS across a range of industries, agriculture, tourism and others, it's all under, for every dollar invested we get under $2 in return. With that particular research and development tax incentive, we're getting returns of 11 to 1. So what we found is for under a $1.5 billion investment by the government in foregone tax revenue, we're getting a $16 billion return to the economy.
And when do you think the number plates are going to be ready?
Oh, okay. We hope. Look, our goal is written goal. It's actually for this year. So we definitely. It would do great things for our state. Actually, just to label the state as a state of innovation would be. It's sort of subliminal when people are driving and seeing it, the people all of a sudden they start acting the label, so it would be great help. Let me put it this way: it won't hurt. Okay, so yeah, but it would be great help.
I'm Nadia Hunter reporting for Undercurrent.
Recent reports name Perth the crime capital of Australia. What do you think? Bernita hit the streets to find out.
The state opposition is demanding the police commissioner and minister be held to account for Perth's continuing crime wave.
She has blamed a new police model introduced under his watch for rising crime rates.
It's a failed model. It may have worked in some small policing districts in the UK, but it's not working here.
WA is a crime capital according to the news. Today we asked West Australians if they feel safe staying in Perth.
Not at all, I'm not, no. Yeah, that's awful.
I never really thought about it until now.
I probably feel scared when it actually happens to me.
I've lived in more dangerous places overseas, so I felt pretty safe here and I'm pretty comfortable.
Not totally, I keep my eye out and that sort of thing.
I feel safe myself. I'm from Sydney, so it's vastly different.
Why do you think WA differs from other states with regards to crime rates?
I think the policing and their presence more in the cities, and they don't seem to be looking after the suburbs as they should do.
I think we need to tighten up the punishment system because it's really not working. People just get away with a slap and a wrist for doing practically anything.
To be honest, I think it's the ice epidemic that has hit Perth.
What do you think can be done to reduce the crime rates in WA?
Definitely harsher penalties, probably more police presence because like studies in the UK where they've put just a cardboard cutout of a policeman have dropped petty theft.
More should be done for the young kids out there because these days, I don't know, I feel like they're a bit more obnoxious and always getting into ridiculous things. So I think you should educate the young.
Police force need to step up their game.
Probably double the amount of police or security.
I think more visible policing. I don't see enough police on the street.
Well, I think the police are doing quite a good job. From what I understand, they're actually catching people repeatedly. It's the court systems that are then letting them out. That, I think, is a problem.
The homelessness that results from the ice epidemic needs to be addressed.
In November, the Barnett government announced tough home invasion laws, the toughest one throughout the whole of Australia. Do you think that this will actually help with the crime rates in WA?
Yeah, definitely, because, tougher laws, tougher consequences.
I think it can if it's implemented correctly.
If people really want to get into your house and still think they're going to do it anyway.
I think it's a political gain to them to say what they're saying, but they won't do the walk of what they're promising. So no, I don't think there'll be any change whatsoever.
I've been a victim of a home invasion myself, and I hope it does slow the crime rate down immensely, and I think it will.
People of Perth have said that they feel safe staying in West Australia. They feel that there should be more police presence around the city. I'm Bernita Azman reporting for Undercurrent.
It's time for a short break. Stay with us on West TV for more Undercurrent. Welcome back to Undercurrent. Radio Lollipop has been supporting sick children in hospitals since 1979. Transperth has been supporting Radio Lollipop for the last 20 years with its Uniform Free Day, which is a day to dress up, have fun and fundraise for the cause. Undercurrent reporter James found out more.
Uniform Free Day is the major fundraiser for Radio Lollipop.
Volunteers dressed up and encouraged people to donate around Perth's train stations.
It's been going now for 20 years. It's a relationship we've had with Transperth and the bus drivers, and it's a day when the bus drivers get to be silly, if you like, in the way they dress, and they can dress down and put on a costume and just have fun. You know, they're out of their uniform, they can just have that fun, and people get on the bus and make their donations to make a difference for our kids. And you'll see different people on the bus. You'll see Radio Lollipop volunteers out at train stations. We'll all be out there asking you to give to help us keep these kids smiling. These funds just help us get the prizes that we need to give to the kids, because we have competitions through the radio. Keep up with the craft materials, because they go through them like nothing on earth, and bubbles. I mean, we could probably spend most of the money on bubbles. Seems to be our trademark this year.
Lollipop stands for lots of love and laughter and place of pain. That's exactly what the Army of Volunteers do here every night, here at this small studio in Princess Margaret Hospital.
Radio Lollipop is a volunteer organisation that provides care, comfort, play and entertainment for children in hospital using the radio and play. It just gives them a chance to be normal. You know, during the day when they're here, the doctors are prodding and poking them, or they're having to go off for tests, and Radio Lollipop comes in at 5:30 and says, let's play. The radio is a great way to help children imagine, and we use it to tell stories and take them on a journey from their bed to, say, the zoo or the beach. It just gives them an opportunity to think about something else other than being in hospital. Anything from blowing bubbles to playing games to doing crafts. Actually, it's whatever the child wants to do that night. Sometimes it could just be sitting there watching Home and Away with them, because that's what they want to do and that's what we're about. We actually give the children a choice. So everything and anything within reason, of course.
Radio Lollipop relies on the dedication of volunteers to provide this entertainment every night.
It's just really fun, to be honest. You get to go in, play with some kids, make them smile, but it's also really great for me in particular as well. I have lots of fun playing games and just having a bit of a laugh.
I think in particular when you walk into a room and a kid might be having a particularly hard day, which is often when they're in hospital, and if you can come in and just for 15 minutes make them sort of forget that they're there with a smile or a game of Uno, yeah, that's pretty rewarding.
Bubbles are great, so something so simple is actually really popular, especially with the younger kids.
We normally give them sort of an interview, so asking them what their favourite colour is, what they've done that week, favourite movies, all sorts of different things.
Oh, we have lots of different competitions. What's really fun is that kids can call up and request a song or come up to the radio itself and be on the radio, which is quite thrilling for a lot of kids.
For more details about how you can donate or volunteer, go to radiolollipop.org. This is James Rogers reporting for Undercurrent.
Every year around the 20th of March, millions of Iranians worldwide celebrate the Persian New Year. It marks a fresh start and gives everyone the opportunity to wish each other good luck for the new year. Celebrations in Perth were bigger and better this year. Our Undercurrent reporter Layla went along to the festivities.
March 21st is celebrated as the first day of spring in Persian culture, known as Nowruz. Tonight, we have joined the Iranian community celebrating Nowruz. What are you expecting from tonight's event?
You know, it's not kind of big expectation, just trying to gather more community members together. Celebrate the new year, because we are far from home, and the only thing we are trying to do is just, you know, bring up those cultures out and just remember them again and show it to the next generation. That's what we're going to do.
That's right. Would you expect more members for next year?
Oh, definitely, because, you know, as I said before, it's a kind of members activity for the community. Exactly. You want to say it in other words, it's kind of activity for our own families. So it's kind of just invitation to all of them to come and join us.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you, you too.
Hello, how are you, Layla?
Good, thanks.
Mubarak.
Oh, thank you very much. Eid al-Shawam Mubarak. How are you enjoying the night?
It's fantastic, as always. This is my third year coming to the Nowruz event here. Absolutely love it. It's getting bigger and brighter and better every year.
That's very nice. What would be your opinion about the value of having such events?
These events are invaluable to our multicultural community to be able to share what the cultural heritage is of countries where we come from. It's like when the Chinese celebrate Lunar New Year or the Vietnamese celebrate Tet Festival. For the Persians and the other countries who celebrate Nowruz, this is their celebration of the New Year. A lot of people think that this is bounded by religion, and it's not. It goes way beyond that, from thousands of years ago, and it really is the new beginnings, new spring, and the more that we could celebrate this and understand each other, the better off I think we might be.
Absolutely. And I think it would be valuable for our children, the next generation that's growing up. Is that?
Absolutely. It's one of the things I always tell people who are taking out new citizenship. Yes, you become an Australian, and that means you're going to embrace our way of life and our culture, but you're going to bring your culture to us, you're going to pass it on to your children, but also to your neighbours. So next time you're doing something, if people are having Hafsin tables this Nowruz, invite your neighbours in, explain to them what Hafsin is, share some chele kebab or sabzi polo mahi or whatever it might be that you want to share with your neighbours to get a better understanding, but certainly pass it on to the children. The language, the rich cultural heritage of Iran is amazing with, Hafez and all of the poetry and things like that. So absolutely vitally important.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Thank you so much. I love being here.
Thank you. Hello.
How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you enjoying the night?
Oh, it's wonderful. I've never been to one of these events before, and it's the first time. And I've been to many cultural events around the world through my work, and so this is the first Persian one I've been to, and it's wonderful. It really is lots of fun, great food, wonderful people, very friendly people.
Beautiful. And what would be your opinion about the value of having such event in the society?
Look, I think if we look at Australian culture and Australian society now, and I made a comment tonight in my speech that that we've had people from over 200 countries around the world, and most of the cultures of the world are represented in Australia. So this is the fabric of Australian society. This is who we are now. So I think other Australians really need to understand what we've got in Australia and how exciting it is to come to something like this, and I think it should be bigger and better.
Beautiful. And do you think we should pass this to our generation? The next generation is growing up in Australia. How would that affect, having such events?
Look, I think it's absolutely critical that all cultures, but people retain their culture, and because it becomes, as I said before, it's the fabric of Australia. It's who we will be in the future, and if the culture is not passed on, if these celebrations are not passed on, you will lose it. And it's so important for Australia that you retain that.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much for your time, and hope you have a beautiful night tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Leila Haydarwand, reporting for Undercurrent.
Perth is currently facing a dilemma with its childcare facilities. Limited hours, fewer places and increasing costs are creating a problem for parents that want to go back to work. What does the future hold for childcare in WA? Our Undercurrent reporter Laura found out more.
According to the Commission's data, the number of children in childcare centre services in Western Australia has soared of 22% over the past 2 years. According to some childcare centres, certain solutions provided by the government are inadequate. I am with Sally Whittaker. Hi, Sally.
Hi, how are you going?
She is Vice President for Early Childhood Australia in Western Australia. I have heard some childcare centres have 2 years waiting list.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes, I would say that is true. It's March at the moment, like we're coming to the end of March, and we already have an extensive waiting list for 2017. But I would say that an issue that our sector does have is that we have people put their names down at 4 or 5 centres. So you might think that you've got, say, 20 families on your waiting list for the babies room, but in reality you might only really have 14 or 15 because families have already found childcare in another place. So that you know, having children on multiple waiting lists does give a sense of, you know, and it does inflate the problem. But I also am going to say that there are services within the metro area here in Perth who don't have any waiting list, so it really does depend on which suburb that you're in.
What kind of proposals do the government?
Okay, so our government currently has a package before the Senate, which they've called a families package, where they're combining the childcare rebate and childcare benefit. So they're combining all the payments that families receive, and they're going to implement a thing called the activity test. So some families will miss out on the opportunity to come to early childhood education and care because they won't meet the criteria for the activity test. So you'll have to be working, and even though to access some of the benefits now you have to be working, there are families out there in the sector who you might have a child, for example, who's in the care of their grandparents, and the grandparents are retired, but they want to have the opportunity for their grandchild to come and access early education. But they won't meet the criteria because they're not working, so they won't be able to access that. And there are other families who are, like student families, who every child has the right to early learning, and this new package, this new activity test, is going to be a bit cost prohibitive for people. So, I don't think that's a particularly good idea.
And what could be a good solution?
Well, I think if they actually made it, gave financial support for children to access early childhood education and care for 24 hours a week without the activity test for some families, that would be a really great idea. I think that everyone has the right, or all children have the right to access education, and I think that should be a priority for our government, whether it's from a really, the early childhood age right up until they're at, high school, TAFE, university.
And that's all we have time for on this week's episode of Undercurrent. I hope you enjoyed watching some of our top stories. Make sure you tune in next week for another very special episode. We'll see you then.